I'm the warrior chief. You fuck with me, and you will suffer my wrath.
Did you know Tom Berenger almost stepped into Hollywood history twice before his big break even happened? He was in the running to play Indiana Jones, and he nearly snagged the other major role in Platoon before landing the one that shot him into the spotlight. At one point, he was lined up to play Sergeant Elias, the part that ended up going to Willem Dafoe, and that alone shows just how wide his acting range was. Two totally different roles, two totally different energies, same movie. That alone says everything about Berenger's edge as an actor. He came in intense, flexible, and hard to pin down, the kind of performer studios didn't quite know where to place because he could do anything. So what actually happened to Tom Berenger? It's time to pull the curtain back. Tom Berenger entered the world as Thomas Michael Moore on May 31st, 1949 in Chicago, Illinois. His father worked at the Chicago Sun-Times, and Berenger grew up in a classic Irish Catholic household where hard work, loyalty, and keeping things steady were part of daily life. Those blue-collar roots never left him. They shaped the way he carried himself both on and off screen. After studying journalism at the University of Missouri, he tried working as a copy editor, but the fit just wasn't there. Deep down, he knew stories were his calling, but not from behind a desk. So he made a bold move to New York and trained seriously as an actor. Through the early 1970s, he hit regional theaters and appeared in soap operas, including a run on One Life to Live, and it didn't take long before Hollywood started paying attention. By 1977, he booked a small but icy role in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, playing a dangerous, seductive one-night stand opposite Diane Keaton, a performance that instantly made people take notice. Then in 1980, he came back strong in The Dogs of War, sharing the screen with Christopher Walken and showing he could step into gritty physical roles with real weight. Just a few years later, audiences saw a different side of him in The Big Chill, 1983, where he played Sam Weber, a moody TV actor trying to reconnect with old college friends. It was quiet, soulful work. Enough to hint that beneath the rugged exterior, Berenger had emotional layers that could catch you off guard. But his true breakthrough was right around the corner, and it would throw him straight into the middle of a cinematic battlefield. In 1986, Tom Berenger took on the role that would redefine his entire image and carve his name into film history. Oliver Stone's Platoon wasn't just another war movie, it was raw, gritty, and deeply personal, made by a Vietnam veteran who poured real memories into every frame. At first, Berenger was set to play Sergeant Elias, the movie's moral anchor, but Stone made a last-second switch, handing that role to Willem Dafoe and asking Berenger to become the scarred, unpredictable Sergeant Barnes instead. That decision shocked everyone, and Berenger didn't hesitate for a second. He dove into Barnes with a kind of icy calm that made the character even more chilling. This wasn't just a villain. Barnes felt like a walking breakdown of humanity, a living symbol of what war can do to a person, a human war wound stitched into a uniform, and Berenger played him with razor-sharp control. The performance became one of the darkest and most unforgettable portrayals of the 1980s, earning him an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Even when Barnes was at his most terrifying, Berenger never pushed too far. He let the silence, the stare, and the tension do the talking, and that's what made it hit even harder. The late 80s were a powerful run for Tom Berenger, and he came in swinging with back-to-back heat. In 1988, he teamed up with Sidney Poitier for Shoot to Kill, a tense survival thriller that kept audiences on edge. That same year, he starred in Betrayed as an FBI agent opposite Deborah Winger, showing he could balance toughness with sharp emotional beats. And right before those, he stepped into Ridley Scott's Someone to Watch Over Me in 1987, a slick, moody, noir-style thriller that added a fresh layer of romantic tension to his growing list of on-screen skills. Even though that film wasn't a huge box office hit, it revealed a different side of Berenger, soft-spoken, emotionally conflicted, and torn between duty and desire. It's one of those movies people forget, but when you revisit it, you realize how much quiet power he brought to it. Then came the move nobody saw coming, a full curve ball that shifted his entire momentum. After years of heavy dramas and characters wrestling with moral gray zones, Berenger flipped the script. In 1989, he stepped into Major League and showed the world he wasn't just intense. He could be straight up funny and totally charming. He played Jake Taylor, a washed-up catcher thrown in to lead a chaotic, patched-together roster of underdogs trying to save the Cleveland Indians. Jake came with a bad knee, a shaky career, and a messy romance with Rene Russo. But he wasn't just comic relief. He was the emotional backbone of the whole team, The film hit big with audiences. People loved the wild energy, the sharp banter, and the crew of lovable misfits trying to pull off the impossible. But Berenger held the center, keeping everything grounded, playing it cool in the middle of all the chaos, and giving the story real heart. He felt gritty, relatable, and for the first time in a long while, completely at ease on screen. Major League opened the door to a whole new lane for him in the early 90s. Suddenly, Berenger wasn't just the guy from Platoon. He was the everyman, the cop, the coach, the father trying to hold it together, the guy dealing with pressure but staying solid. He didn't need to shout to take over a scene, and people trusted his presence instantly. It was a golden period for him, full of hits, near hits, and respected roles that kept his name glowing in Hollywood, even as the first cracks quietly started forming beneath the surface. By the early 90s, Berenger had locked into a sweet spot. These tough, quiet men caught in explosive situations, characters who carried a heavy moral weight in their eyes. He never played the loudest guy in the room, but he always felt like the one who could walk straight through danger without blinking. That vibe hit its peak in 1993 with Sniper, where he played Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Beckett, a hardened Marine Scout sniper partnered with a rookie, played by Billy Zane, on a deadly mission through the Panamanian jungle. Directed by Luis Llosa, who later made Anaconda, the film didn't wow critics, but action fans grabbed onto it fast. It was gritty, slow-burning, and surprisingly thoughtful. Sniper wasn't just explosions and tough talk. It dug into the psychological cost of taking a life from a distance, and Berenger's haunted, worn-down performance gave the film real weight and unexpected depth. Audiences loved it. Sniper turned into a quiet hit, pulled strong box office numbers, and blew up even bigger on VHS and cable. It eventually grew into a full franchise, with Berenger returning for 4 sequels over the years. For a movie that slipped under the radar when it first dropped, it became one of the most lasting pillars of his career. And just 3 years later, Berenger brought that same rock-solid intensity into a whole new kind of battleground. In The Substitute, 1996, Tom Berenger jumped into one of his wildest roles yet, playing Jonathan Shale, a former mercenary who sneaks into a high school posing as a teacher so he can take down the gang threatening his girlfriend's school. Yeah, the setup was over the top, but it hit at the perfect time. The movie dropped right in the middle of the Dangerous Minds era, tapping into mid-90s fears about school violence and crumbling neighborhoods. Except Berenger's character wasn't teaching poetry. He was throwing hands and charging into danger to settle things his own way. Critics were split, but the audience didn't care. They showed up strong. The movie pulled in solid numbers and quickly became a home video favorite, especially for fans who loved revenge thrillers packed with loud, unapologetic action. The film was rough, explosive, and didn't pretend to be anything else. Yet Berenger committed to it completely, and that sold the whole thing. The success of The Substitute made something very clear. Tom Berenger had quietly become an action star, even though he never tried to reinvent himself as one. Between movies like Sniper, The Substitute, and heavier prestige projects like Gettysburg, where he played Confederate General James Longstreet with serious emotional weight, Berenger carved out his own lane. He wasn't chasing awards or trying to dominate opening weekends. He was showing up, putting in the work, and earning loyal fans one gritty role at a time. By the end of the 1990s, he had become one of the most recognizable tough guy faces in Hollywood. Not necessarily the explosive blockbuster lead, but the reliable presence. The guy you'd spot in a late-night cable rerun or on a worn-out VHS in a video shop and think, yeah, this one's worth watching. But once the 2000s hit, the industry started shifting towards sleek CGI, massive set pieces, and a flashier kind of action. Suddenly, Berenger's blue-collar style felt like something from another era. As the new decade rolled in, he wasn't getting the same type of roles that had defined his earlier years. The big war epics, the serious thrillers, the theater releases with weight behind them. Instead, his career slipped into a quieter phase. He stayed busy, but the projects were smaller and didn't get much attention. He showed up in TV movies, indie thrillers, and lower-budget crime dramas like True Blue, Stiletto, and Breaking Point. Even though the budgets were modest, he never treated the work like it was beneath him. Whether he played a detective, a hitman, or a worn-down soldier, he still brought that same grounded intensity that made him stand out in the first place. He also slipped back into familiar territory, returning for Sniper 2 and Sniper 3. The sequels didn't make huge waves, but fans appreciated that he stuck with the character and kept the series alive. Behind the scenes, there were quiet whispers too. Rumors he was floated for roles in bigger movies like Training Day or even Jarhead. Nothing ever confirmed, but the fact his name stayed in casting conversations showed he still had respect in the industry. It felt like he was in a holding pattern, waiting for the right project to bring him back into the spotlight, and that project finally came. And it came from a totally unexpected place. Christopher Nolan. In 2010, Tom Berenger suddenly reappeared in one of the biggest films of the decade, Inception. He played Peter Browning, the advisor and father figure type to Cillian Murphy's character, Robert Fisher. He didn't have a ton of screen time, but he made every moment count. In a movie full of shifting realities, wild dream layers, and psychological tension, Berenger brought a calm, steady presence that grounded the chaos. His performance felt measured and surprisingly emotional, a quiet anchor inside the movie's non-stop mind-bending action. Critics picked up on it too. Many called his appearance a smart throwback casting choice for fans who remembered him from Platoon or The Big Chill. Even the AV Club pointed out how surreal, but exciting, it was to see Berenger pop up again in such a massive studio blockbuster. Tom Berenger went from carrying whole movies on his back to sliding into sharp supporting roles with a calm, confident vibe that only seasoned actors can pull off. Christopher Nolan even explained why he picked him, saying, "We wanted someone who brought instant familiarity and emotional history. Tom has that. The moment you see him, there's a kind of trust and complexity that doesn't need explaining. That's the kind of respect you can't fake." Inception wasn't meant to launch him back into leading man territory, and it didn't need to. It simply showed everyone that Berenger still had serious power on screen. No overacting, no scene-stealing tricks, just that steady, understated intensity he built his whole career on. For younger viewers who didn't grow up with his films, his appearance sparked real curiosity. People started asking, who is this guy and why is he so good? After Inception, Berenger didn't suddenly jump back into massive blockbusters, but the role clearly cracked open a few doors for him. In 2012, he took on a major part in the Emmy-winning miniseries Hatfields and McCoys, acting alongside heavy hitters like Kevin Costner and Bill Paxton. As Uncle Jim Vance, he brought a cold, unsettling kind of seriousness, and critics praised him for delivering one of the strongest performances of his later career. That role even earned him a Primetime Emmy Award, finally giving him the recognition he had been long overdue. He also stepped back into familiar territory with the Sniper franchise, appearing in Sniper, Legacy, and later Sniper, Assassin's End. Even though these films were modest productions, Berenger treated the work like it mattered, giving fans a sense of loyalty and continuity that kept the series alive. Alongside these projects, he continued taking smaller roles in indie films and the occasional TV job, not chasing headlines, just staying consistent and giving solid performances every time. Off-screen, Berenger has lived a full life. Married 4 times, father to 6 children, and known for keeping his personal world mostly private. What we do know is that he cares deeply about American history, education, and conservative politics, even founding the Tom Berenger Acting Scholarship to help young theater students chase their dreams. These days, he reportedly splits his time between South Carolina and Utah, enjoying a slower, quieter lifestyle far from the noise of Hollywood. Even with that low-key life, Berenger couldn't dodge every bit of drama. Back in 2012, he got pulled into a legal dispute with a former spouse involving property and trust issues, a rare moment where his private life hit the public eye. But he didn't make a scene about it. He kept things quiet, let the legal process move forward, and stayed focused on his family and his work. Tom Berenger might not be the first name people mention when they talk about the great American actors, but maybe he deserves to be. He never shouted about his success, never chased the spotlight, but through the 80s and 90s, he delivered some of the most grounded, powerful, and memorable performances in Hollywood. A lot of folks forget just how strong that run really was. And looking back, it's clear he built a career full of grit, heart, and serious talent. If you've stuck with this story all the way to the end, thank you. I truly appreciate you being here. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button if you felt something real, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.